Cat lovers rejoice. You can now have a cat between your hands while you're working. It's Fleece Friday. This is Show Me Your Setup. I'm Dan.
I'm Josh.
And we're here to tell you about new equipment. It looks like a keyboard, but it's not a regular keyboard. It's a very different keyboard. It's glowing and it's like split in half. What's going on with that?
It's the Dygma Defy keyboard. It was just released and shipped to early adopters, I guess you'd call us, pre-order folks.
Josh, how long have you had to wait for this keyboard?
1 year. I ordered January 2023. It was
How long did you think it was going to be?
It was to be shipped in March 2023.
Wow. And then you got an update, and they said it's going to be a little while.
Lots of updates, very transparent the whole time. So both Dan and I are of a certain age where repetitive typing and mouse motions have caused us to think about what we want to do with our desk setups, the setups that we're using for hours on end. I've personally found that this kind of thing all day is no good. So hand on the mouse this way, fingers on the keyboard this way. So for a number of years, I've been testing out ergonomic mice, trackballs, something to get my hand from here more to here, and ideally more to here, like a handshake position.
Our bones are weary. We work like this, but we should work like this. I think we should work like this. But this doesn't work for a computer.
Hammering.
So we do this. And that doesn't work for a computer either, because it hurts our wrists after a while. It's this point in here. There's a tunnel, and there's stuff moving through it. And when you move your hand this way and that way, and this way and that way, and your thumb, and I don't know, it gets painful. So what do? Well, we change how we're working. Sometimes it means we stand up. Other times it means we change the actual hardware we're using. For example, a split keyboard instead of a flat keyboard. Back in the day, I had a natural keyboard, that nice curvy one from Microsoft with the big space bar.
In researching for this episode, I looked up the Microsoft Natural keyboard. I think all of the split design, all the new keyboards that people are really interested in, come out of that design, of that beige or white natural keyboard. Mine got discolored. It still worked beautifully. The USB inputs stopped functioning for me. But I love that keyboard, and that gives you a bit of an angle. Your hands a little bit wider, which is great because ideally you want your hands to line up with your shoulders on your desk. Instead of like this, you want more like this. And I think that Microsoft Natural keyboard gave us some of that. But I have craved more. I went to a 10 keyless keyboard. My son's on a 60%, just a flat keyboard, and your hands are like this, your wrists are out like this. So I wanted something that I could split, where my hands fall below my shoulders.
I'm looking at a picture of your new keyboard, and it looks like it's connected with USB-C cables, but that they can disconnect. Are these wireless?
You can order a wireless configuration. I chose not to do that. I'm kind of funny in that I'm always thinking of conservation, like whatever I do. So if I have a wireless keyboard, if I have a wireless mouse, I'm going to be thinking about batteries and when do I have to charge.
Here I was thinking it was a latency issue and you wanted the fastest possible connection, which is why you stuck with wired, which I would buy. I personally have a wired keyboard right now. I believe in wired keyboards. Not so much the wireless mouse, though. I like the flexibility of my mouse being able to go just about anywhere. Call me crazy.
I recently upgraded to a vertical trackball type mouse. So this mouse doesn't have to move at all. So yeah, I'm not worried about the weight. I'm not worried about the cord getting in the way because it's just sitting there in one place.
If I had wireless headphones, I wouldn't be at risk of choking myself, right?
I've been struggling with mice for years. Guess we should just talk about the things we're trying to overcome. For me, it was some wrist pain building up. I would start to feel it in my shoulders and upper arms. And I thought maybe a trackball will help. So I got this Kensington, which is beautiful. I didn't like that I didn't like how my wrist was tilting up when I used this. So if this had been built into my desk,
so if
it
we
was
carved
flat
a
into
hole
the desk,
into your desk so that was mounted in your desk, then you would go back to the Kensington trackball? Because I have a router.
I realized that my wrist is still over like this, and I want it like this. So if I could have had something to tilt this thing, if there could be a tilting trackball. So I said, okay, I like the idea of the tilt, that handshake position. So let me try vertical mice. So something like this. This is like $120 extra large vertical mouse.
Okay.
It feels incredible, and it's vertical. But it doesn't have the precision in tracking. So when I'm editing audio in Adobe Audition, I wasn't getting the precision that I needed. You know, I've ordered several vertical mice and sent back a couple. Finally, I've settled on the Nulea vertical trackball mouse. My hand sits there in the position where it's supposed to, moving my thumb. I don't have to pick up and move the mice around on a mouse pad. It just sits there. My hand movement is much more limited, and it feels great. And since I graduated to this $18 mouse, I have had no wrist or shoulder or arm pain. Another way that I thought I would be more ergonomic, the top of my hand was really starting to feel it. I'm like, how can I decrease my mouse clicks? I remember early on when I just started at Marketing Messages, our sister company, Dan had told me that he would like to one day implement a pedal setup where he could be audio editing with 2 hands and 2 feet. And I thought, can I greatly decrease my mouse clicks with a foot pedal? So I used this for quite a while. USB into the computer, and I programmed it for the left mouse click. And it was great. It alleviated, all of my repetitive mouse clicking. But it wasn't ultimately the solution I needed, which was just a vertical mouse. But we're really here to talk about the keyboard. I just wanted everyone to know how the goal is to get my hands in a more handshake position. So the keyboard, you had asked about, is it wireless? Because the USB cables can disconnect. You can get wireless configuration. You can get underglow RGB, which I chose not to. And you can get a tenting kit, which I did choose to do. Otherwise, the keyboard is just flat.
Understood. Yes, I think when I first started looking at the modern era of split keyboards, the biggest appeal to me was the tenting, and I don't think I would bother without the tenting because obviously you're going to want to be able to play around and find the exact angles. I like the idea of having my arms separated, resting on the desk. Instead of like this, maybe a little bit like this, and then just like that. That'd be nice.
Stable tenting was almost my number one criteria for choosing this keyboard. Like, I knew I wanted it split. I did want it to look good. I wanted it to sound good. Hot swappable switches and keys. But a robust tenting kit was a must. And I don't think I could find that anywhere else at the time.
Understood.
There is a picture of the tenting, and maybe I can show it.
The devil inside me wants to say, do you ever regret the fact that now, a year later, there are many other models available with deluxe tenting kits that work in different ways?
I haven't seen it. I'm sure it's true or it's coming.
Hey, are there any things you regret?
One thing, so I guess this is kind of like a first couple weeks review, like my early impressions. One thing that I didn't do when I set up this keyboard is pull these little tabs out.
Okay.
And these
are little rubber feet that kind of give a grip?
They give the stability. There's a little wobble without that, and I've seen people talk about the wobble with this keyboard, and then they realize, I have to pop out these 2 tabs if I want a tent.
Yes.
Once you do that, it's solid. Dan, one thing I thought about is, hey, I don't need like a mouse mat anymore. Since I have a trackball mouse that doesn't move, I don't need a mouse mat, and I don't need one of these large like XL gaming mouse mats that are kind of cool to have, but maybe I don't have a reason for it anymore because I can tent this thing and maybe it'll grip really nicely on my desk. It's nice for a few minutes, but because it's rubber on like lacquer, I think dust tends to get underneath the little feet, and I found that I was sliding just a little bit too much, so I did throw a mouse mat under it.
Okay.
And it's rock solid. This keyboard does not move at all.
Gotcha.
Dan, you told me the tenting that you would like at some point. The weight of my hand on the wrist rest would sometimes cause the magnetic wrist rest to drop. So
it seems like you put a lot of weight on your keyboard. Like, are you leaning on the keyboard all the time? Are you holding yourself up? Are you kind of pushing off the desk? Are you ready to launch into space? What's going on over there? I thought the whole rule of thumb was your hand's supposed to kind of lightly hover over everything, and your wrist maybe gently touch, but never really rest on anything.
I'm a work in progress, obviously.
I'm just saying. I think for me, all of the issues I ever had ergonomically stemmed from how far my shoulders were above the desk. It wasn't a relationship of anything other than where my body meets the desk, which is why I found the best thing for me long term was getting the height adjustable desk, because then I could just raise and lower that surface by millimeters at a time until I dial in the right angle for my arms, and then I don't have these issues. Because if the desk's a little high, then you're like this all day. If it's a little low, then you're like this all day. But if it's just right, then I don't know. It's Fleece Friday. It's really warm wearing fleece in my office today, but it seemed to be the style because it's part of our episode 9, where we feature not just a trackball, but also a keyboard, or maybe just a trackball with a hint of a keyboard, or maybe just a keyboard with a hint of a trackball, or maybe we're just going to talk about desks that go up and down.
Some of the new modular keyboards are allowing a trackball insert. So you can have your trackball at your thumb right there.
I have seen those. Or
either
a
left or right side.
Yes.
Okay.
I have seen that. And that actually was something that occurred to me to ask you, because what I see when I think about your setup now is that most of the time your hands are very ergonomically positioned perfectly. But if you need to move your cursor around, you need to lift up your right hand and move it to another device. And then you have to lift it up and move it to another device. Imagine if that action was contained.
Yeah. When I'm editing in Adobe Audition, I have my left hand on the left keyboard unit and my right hand on the mouse. I've got the Adobe Audition keyboard shortcuts. Everything is programmed to the left hand,
including a delete.
And then, yes.
Oh, I'm looking at my keyboard right now to see okay, home and end. You've got those in your left hand?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty handy.
You probably saw in the pictures the Dygma Defy has some keys that are kind of unmarked.
Oh, yes, for your thumb and beyond.
You program whatever you want. I have home, end, and delete on the inner portion of the left
the
side
three.
Of the
Yeah, I see.
Keyboard. Yeah. Those three unmarked.
And the outside 4 you have are programmable.
Yep. Everything's programmable. It's really the thumb clusters that took me the longest to figure out in the first couple days. Exactly what do I want to do there, and do I want to try to program every key in those thumb clusters, because there are 8.
So what did you land on for a spacebar? Which key or keys?
The ones that have the little raised section, so the ones your fingers are supposed to rest on. For me, those are both spacebar.
Oh, I can
the
barely
thumb
see
cluster.
it in this. Oh, so the triple green, the triple green light, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
Triple purple light. Okay. Those are space bars? Interesting.
Yes.
And that's
the enter
a
keys
natural
are
just
the large
resting point for the tip of your thumb?
Yep. I've got 2 enter keys set up. Those are the large vertical ones.
Okay.
And the innermost thumb keys. The cursor, Dan, up, down, left, and right is in my right thumb key. And there are 4 keys that kind of look like they should be up, down, left, and right.
I can't imagine using my thumb for all 4 of those keys. I like to have 3 fingers for the arrows and stuff. Or at least, I don't know.
You're supposed to use layers with this keyboard. So you hit a combination and you switch to a different layer and you do something different.
That makes sense.
Like number keys. If you're crunching a lot of numbers,
so they can all
you don't want that.
You can have a numerical keypad on your right hand, like in the old keyboards of like mine right now. So you can program all the keys, do a keystroke, switch the layer, program all the keys differently.
And you can color coordinate everything. So you just take a look. Oh, I know what layer I'm in because of the colors that I've set up for it.
And so you can customize an area, like a numerical keypad.
Yeah.
And have that be a separate color combination so it would be familiar.
Did you notice that these keys are aligned vertically? They're not staggered like a traditional keyboard?
Yes.
So supposedly that is less travel for each finger, and it's better. And the first few days were pretty difficult to get used to that. And now it's been a couple weeks and I'm almost there. When I do basic typing with backspace, spacebar, maybe moving the cursor, I'm getting pretty good. It's feeling really nice.
Good.
Having your hands underneath your shoulders while typing is a nice feeling.
Have you found that you've had to use other keyboards on other computers and it's irritating now?
Yep.
I know we're only 3 weeks in, but already you're not liking other keyboards.
Yep.
Fascinating.
So folks, Dan and I, we've definitely been eyeing these new split keyboards. We're bouncing ideas off of each other. You know, Dan suggested that we do this episode and talk about my early impressions of this new keyboard. We would love to know what you're doing at home about keyboards. And what are you thinking about? The easiest way to get in touch with us and let us know is probably email.
Show me your setup podcast at gmail.com. Show me your setup podcast at gmail.com. You can also look at our show by visiting our website, gomodpod.com. Find us in the menu of navigation at the top. It'll say podcast.
Podcasting is a great way for businesses to better connect to their customers. Their customers spend a longer amount of time with them, listening to a podcast or watching a video.
An engaged audience is a captive audience. Once you've got their ear, you can tell them anything.
Once you've got their ear?
Their ear.
Grab them by the... Oh, okay.
If I want to grab somebody by the ear, I'm going to make a shrill sound like this. Well, I could walk down the street and grab anyone by the ear just by hollering. Also, we have a YouTube channel.
All of the podcasts that we do are also in video form. youtube.com/@gomodpod.
You can subscribe and be notified when we release a new episode. This happened last week, and mere moments later, I received a text from my daughter who was watching it.
We do have plans to talk to you about all of our equipment. We're going to get to everything. We're always implementing new gear into our setups. Dan is always thinking about building out his setup, but we'd really love to hear more about your setups. We don't just want to hear about them, but we'd love if you would send a photo to us and show us what's interesting to you right now. Maybe you've done something new and you would like to share that with people. We're your guys.
Show me your setup podcast at gmail.com, our email address.
Yep. If you're a Facebook user, facebook.com/gomodpod. If you're a Twitter user, it's twitter.com/gomodpod or just @gomodpod. Whatever way of communicating is comfortable for you, we'll be there. And we'd love to discuss your idea with you.
What have we talked about today, folks? We've talked about the Dygma Defy keyboard. It's really neat. I'm jealous. I'd like to have one. You probably would too. You can get yours at, I think, Dygma.com. Yeah, that'll get you there. Also, maybe more importantly, we talked about a vertical mouse. The Nulea M506 wired trackball mouse, which Josh found after, as you've seen, a lot of trial and error.
Amazon is no longer selling this Nulea model, but it looks like the exact same thing has been picked up by another manufacturer that Amazon is selling. It's just $30 instead of, I think I paid 18 or 19. I just really recommend that people try either a vertical mouse or a vertical trackball mouse. Get your hand in that handshake position and see if that helps you with your pain.
In fact, along those lines, I was looking today at a Logi, one of those Logitech mice, a vertical one. And I was even thinking about getting one for my left hand. Because should my right hand ever get too fatigued or my left hand get tired of keyboard, maybe I want to do the mouse work with my left hand for a while.
Yeah, Logitech has that vertical mouse that you looked at, which looks like your hand just forms around that thing beautifully. It's a really nice fit. Of course, I looked at that one. It's about $70. And they also have trackball mice, and they have different vertical mice. So Kensington as well has a number of vertical mice, vertical trackballs. I would still love to see something like this angled, Dan. I think this would be so nice to use something larger like this, but at an angle.
I guess. It's a lot of arm movement. I'm emulating over here.
Yeah.
And this brings us to another funny point. because this reminds me of the original Karate Kid. And the point isn't what's said so much as how it's said. And what is that point, you might wonder? Well, the character that was learning karate, his name was Daniel. But because he was being taught karate by somebody Japanese, he was called Daniel-san. And when I say my name, real fast and slurry, Danielson. Wax on, wax off. Once again, this has been episode 9 of Show Me Your Setup. He's Josh.
Appreciate you, fam. I'm Josh.
Dan. This just in. We remembered we forgot to tell you something really, really important. Maybe the most important possible thing about a split keyboard and why it could be the biggest selling point of all. Now, this might not appeal to, large dog owners because it would be ridiculous. However, if you have a cat, you know cats like to get right in the middle, right there, right on your keyboard. And guess what? The split keyboard provides a solution.
Dan, check your phone. That's why I was looking down. I just sent you a picture.
I'm gonna look at my phone, people. Let's see what's going on here.
My cat Ty. Just before we were to record.
Today,
her spot.
This is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Look at this. I don't know if you can see this, folks. See that? The cat lives between the keyboard. Happy as can be. And that right there is possibly the only commercial we need to make for split keyboards, because cat lovers rejoice. You can now have a cat between your hands while you're working, and they won't move your mouse.
You're fired. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. WWF, before they went public.
Back in the day, before the World Wildlife Fund said, no, you're not as important as we are, I was a fan of the WWF. But we're not here to talk about that.